Every once in a while there comes a night, not just remembered in history, but etched in the soul, a night so powerful, so heavy with meaning, that the heavens held their breath. This is that night, the night when Prophet Muhammad left the city he was born in and walked into destiny, but not alone. The Quraysh were done being patient. They had tried everything: mockery, bribery, torture. Nothing worked. Islam was still growing. The Prophet was still preaching. People were still listening. So they made a decision: kill him. But not with one sword, with many. So no one tribe could be blamed. It would be a shared murder, a clean cover-up. And in the darkness of night, the assassins surrounded his house. But inside that house was light. The Prophet had already been warned. Angel Jibril brought the message from the skies: leave now, tonight. The mission must go on. But someone needed to take his place. Someone had to lie in his bed to make it look like he was still there. Someone had to risk death. The Prophet turned to Imam Ali, and without hesitation Ali asked, "Will you be safe, Ya Rasulallah?" The Prophet nodded, and Ali simply said, "Then I will stay. No fear, no questions, only love." That night, as death circled the walls, Imam Ali lay in bed, in the Prophet's place, in the path of the sword, knowing fully that when morning came, those men would strike. But his heart didn't tremble, because his love for the Prophet was stronger than fear, stronger than survival, stronger than death. The Quraysh thought they had cornered him. They thought their plan was perfect. But Allah had written something else. He had chosen Ali for this moment. And in this moment, Ali didn't just protect a man, he protected the message. Meanwhile, the Prophet slipped into the night, guided by Allah, protected by his will. He and Abu Bakr took a hidden path, south instead of north, to confuse the trackers. And when they hid in the cave of Thor, even as swordsmen searched nearby, Allah shielded them. A spider's web, a bird's nest, simple things, but enough to fool the killers, because when Allah protect, no sword can touch. Morning came, the sun rose, the killers stormed the Prophet's house, swords in hand, blood in their eyes. They ripped back the cover, ready to strike. But what they found was not Muhammad. It was Ali, lying calmly, looking them in the eye. They were stunned. They had been fooled, outsmarted, outmatched by a boy they thought was just a cousin. But in truth, he was the guardian of the Prophet. And Allah had honored him in the Quran. Among the people is he who sells himself, seeking the pleasure of Allah. Surah Baqarah, verse 207. This verse was revealed about Ali because he didn't just lie in that bed, he gave himself. But Ali's mission wasn't over. The Prophet had left behind trusts, items people gave him for safekeeping, and even though many of them plotted his death, Ali returned every single one, because truth never breaks a promise. Then Ali prepared for his own Hijrah, not alone. He took the Prophet's family with him, including Fatima, the Prophet's daughter, and other women and children. He didn't ride in a caravan. He walked through enemy territory, with swords still hunting him, with the desert sun beating down. He had no army, just his courage and his faith. At night, when others slept, Ali stayed awake, watching, guarding, protecting, because this wasn't just a journey, it was a trust, and Ali had never broken a trust. Among the people is he who sells himself, seeking the pleasure of Allah. This was that night, the night Ali gave himself and asked for nothing, the night the Prophet was saved, and Islam was carried forward on the back of sacrifice. This was not just migration, it was a test of love, a trial of loyalty, a night when swords were ready to fall, and one man chose to lie still. The night had passed. The Prophet was gone. Imam Ali had survived. But this was only the beginning. This wasn't just a political escape, it was The turning point of an entire religion, a movement leaving the shadows and stepping into the light. With the assassins fooled, the Prophet made his way south, not north, toward Medina. It was a move only a prophet would make, to go in the opposite direction, to hide in the cave of Thor. And in that cave, a storm was swirling outside. Bounty hunters, swordsmen, trackers inside, calm, trust, divine peace. Abu Bakr trembled. But the Prophet whispered, "Don't be afraid. Allah is with us." And that was all the protection they needed. What? Army stood guard at the cave, a spider, a dove, and the will of Allah. The hunters saw the web untouched. They saw the bird's nest. They moved on because the signs of nature are signs from the Creator. And while the Prophet was hiding, Imam Ali rose from the bed of sacrifice. His face was calm, his heart unshaken, and his mission far from over. He didn't flee. He didn't hide. He walked through the streets of Mecca with purpose because the Prophet had left him a trust. Even those who wanted to kill the Prophet had entrusted him with their valuables. Why? Because even in hatred, they knew he was the truthful, the trustworthy. And now, Imam Ali carried that honor. One by one, he returned every item, without keeping a coin, without saying a word. This is what it means to represent the Prophet. Then came the next mission. Imam Ali had to lead the Prophet's family through the very desert where killers roamed. With him were Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet, Fatima bint Asad, his mother-like guardian, and other believing women and children. This wasn't just a group. This was the house of Muhammad, and Ali was their shield. He didn't take the easy road. He didn't ride in luxury. He walked through burning heat, through cold nights, with enemies behind him and the unknown ahead. But every step he took was written in the heavens, because when Ali walked, he wasn't just guiding a caravan. He was carrying Islam's bloodline. At night, when the women and children slept, Imam Ali stayed awake, listening, watching, guarding. He didn't sleep easy, because every sound could be danger. But he didn't complain. He didn't stop, because he knew what he was protecting was more than people. It was the legacy of the Prophet. Meanwhile, in Medina, a city waited. The Prophet had arrived, not as a refugee, but as a messenger, welcomed with open arms. Children sang, elders wept, hearts opened. A new chapter had begun, but it was incomplete. One heart still waited. The Prophet stood at the edge of the city, looking south, waiting for Ali, and finally he came. Imam Ali walked into Medina, tired, sunburnt, limping, but with pride in every step. Behind him, safety. Before him, the Prophet. And when they embraced, the Prophet said, "O Ali, what you have done for me, no one else could have done." It wasn't just a welcome, it was a recognition. That embrace wasn't just family, it was confirmation that Imam Ali was the one who stood when all others ran, the one who laid in the bed of death, the one who carried the people of the Prophet through fire and fear, and among the people is he who sells himself, seeking the pleasure of Allah. Surah Baqarah, verse 207. This verse wasn't about theory, it was about Ali, the one who sold himself and asked for nothing, the one whose loyalty was not bound by convenience, but by love. The Hijrah was complete, but the memory of that night still lives in the hearts of believers, a night when Islam turned a corner, when prophethood needed protection, and it was Ali who answered. Every few minutes he looked again. The Prophet stood at the city gates, but his heart was still in the desert, because Ali wasn't there yet. Not his cousin, not just his son-in-law, but his mirror, his trust, his lion, and without Ali, the moment wasn't whole. Imam Ali was still walking, days without proper food, nights of fear, and feet that bled. He wasn't riding like a prince. He wasn't guarded like a general. He was carrying the women of the Prophet, his daughter Fatima, his aunt, his family. Every step forward was weighed with responsibility and pain. The journey left scars. Thorns tore his skin. The sun cracked his lips. The stones bruised his bones. At one point, Ali couldn't even walk, but he still refused to stop. They say, when your heart carries love, your body will carry pain. In Medina, the Prophet paced. He had made it to safety, but Ali hadn't, and he knew. No one else could have done what Ali was doing, because this was not a job for an ordinary man. This was a mission for someone born in the Kaaba, for someone raised in the Prophet's arms. This was for Ali. Then, finally, the horizon moved. Dust, figures, and one man walking beside the camels. The Prophet ran forward, tears in his eyes, and when he saw Ali, limping, tired, yet upright, he embraced him, held him tight, and whispered, "You are from me, and I am from you." The people looked at him and saw something different. He wasn't just a young man. He wasn't just a traveler. He was Ali, the one who stayed when others ran, the one who gave himself for the Prophet, the one who returned every trust and protected every life. This was no ordinary arrival. This was a declaration. Medina welcomed them. The Prophet built Masjid al-Nabawi, the heart of a new community. He chose his place among the people, not as a king, but as a servant of Allah. And Ali, he chose to be close, not for power, not for name, but for love. Because even in peace, he guarded the Prophet's mission, like a shadow guards light. One of the first things the Prophet did was unite hearts. He made a system of brotherhood, one Muhajir, one Ansari, paired as brothers. Bilal was paired, Salman was paired, everyone was matched, except Ali. He waited quietly, and then he asked, "Ya Rasulallah, who is my brother?" The Prophet smiled, tears in his eyes. "You are my brother, O Ali." The people saw it, they heard it. Ali wasn't just a follower, he wasn't just a cousin. He was the soul of the Prophet. He didn't sit on a throne, he didn't wear gold, he didn't seek praise. He worked, he fought hunger, he worshipped like no other. In the day, he served. In the night, he cried, and people began to whisper, "Who is this man who walks like he's carrying the sky?" Ali gave. To orphans, to widows, to the forgotten, and never asked for thanks, because true love for the Prophet means serving his ummah with your life. And among the people is he who sells himself, seeking the pleasure of Allah. Surah Baqarah, verse 207. That verse was still alive, still walking, still known as Ali. The Hijrah wasn't just a journey from one city to another. It was a test, a sacrifice, a declaration that when Islam needed protection, when the Prophet needed a shield, Allah sent Ali, and he answered. With silence, with courage, with love. The desert was calm. The stars glittered above Medina, but the mission was far from over. The Prophet had arrived safely. Islam had found a home. But peace is never permanent. Enemies watched, plots brewed, and the sword of truth had to remain unsheathed. And that sword was Ali. He wasn't just a warrior, he was a father, a servant, a mountain among men. He taught the young, he stood beside the old. He never raised his voice except against oppression. They say the Prophet taught with words, Ali taught with action. One day the Prophet gathered them all, a moment carved in time. He looked around at the men who had stood by him, and he asked, "Who among you will be my brother, my trustee, my supporter, and my successor?" Silence. No one moved. And then one figure rose, Ali, a young man, still in his youth, but already heavier in faith than mountains. "I will, O Messenger of Allah." The Prophet smiled. He looked at the people and said, "This is my brother, my heir and my successor among you. Listen to him and obey him." History would try to erase it, twist it, bury it. But the truth stands like stone in a storm. Ali was chosen, not in secrecy, not after the Prophet's death, but before the world. When swords clashed and hearts faltered, Ali stood firm. At Badr, he cut through the ranks of disbelief. At Uhud, when others ran, he protected the Prophet with his own body. At Khandaq, when no one dared fight Amr ibn Abd al-Wud, Ali stepped forward, and the Prophet said, "The strike of Ali on the day of Khandaq is greater than the worship of all humans and jinn." Years passed. Revelation was nearly complete. The Prophet felt the end drawing near, and once again, in the heat of the desert, he gathered the people, thousands, at a place called Ghadir Khum. Under the sun, he raised Ali's hand. "Man kuntu maulahu fahadha aliyun maulahu." Whoever I am master to, Ali is his master. It wasn't a metaphor, it wasn't unclear, it was a declaration. Some celebrated, some doubted, some feared the weight of what it meant. But the Prophet had spoken. He had raised Ali, not just with his hand, but with his soul. When the final moment came and the world dimmed, there was one man beside the Prophet Ali, bathing his body, lowering him into the grave, whispering words only heaven heard. Others were debating leadership, but Ali was washing the one he loved most, loyal till the last breath, till the last drop of light. The world moved on, power shifted, history twisted, but Ali remained. A silent sword, a broken heart. He didn't cry for the throne. He didn't shout for control. He only asked, "Is this how you repay the man who slept in the bed of death so the Prophet could live?" And among the people is he who sells himself, seeking the pleasure of Allah. Surah Baqarah, verse 207. That verse began on the night of Hijrah, and it ends with the name Ali echoing in time. The Hijrah was not just a migration, it was a miracle, a masterpiece, a moment when faith demanded sacrifice, and it was met by a man whose loyalty would forever be known as Ali, the soul of Islam. May we love him as the Prophet did. Ya Ali.